as coach, you look at him as dad. Do it look like his son supposed to be taking your dad? I don't even feel right. Y'all hear this time? Oh, Tank don't pay his coach.
Hey, come on now.
Coach Barry Hunter trained Tank for this fight with Lamont Roach, not Calvin Ford. A lot of people were saying that this performance has something to do with that. So, is something really going on between Calvin Ford and Tank Davis? Check out what Tank had to say.
Tank Davis is facing the fight of his life, and it's not in the boxing ring. After barely escaping jail time in his latest probation violation hearing, the WBA lightweight champion is now dealing with an even bigger problem, a lawsuit that could cost him his career. Lamont Roach's team has officially taken the controversial majority draw decision to court, arguing that Davis's own words in the ring were proof that the fight was rigged.
Lamont Roach, his coach or his manager or whoever it is, his trainer, somebody filed a lawsuit, right?
His lawyer filed a lawsuit.
Yeah.
During the closing moments of the fight, when Roach was still giving Tank a hard time, Davis told Roach the words that brought the whole heat, telling him, "You ain't gonna win, they ain't gonna give it to you." At the time, many dismissed it as just another mind game from Tank. But now, Roach's legal team is using those very words as the foundation of their lawsuit, claiming that it was an open admission of corruption. Their argument is simple. If Tank already knew the outcome before the scorecards were read, then something was off. Roach's team insists that the fight was supposed to be fair, but instead, it was controlled behind the scenes. The lawsuit isn't just about overturning the decision, it's about exposing what they call a blatant robbery in boxing. And if the court rules in their favor, Tank might not be able to step inside a boxing ring for the next 28 months.
Punches are being thrown, it has to be a knockdown. I've heard some people saying, that he should be disqualified. He went back to the corner. I don't buy that, to be honest with you. I think that's a warning.
That's 2 years and 4 months of forced inactivity, something that could completely change his career. At 30 years old, losing that much time would put him in a difficult position. The sport moves fast, and while he's stuck fighting legal battles, younger fighters will be taking over. This legal storm couldn't have come at a worse time for Tank. He's already dealing with a long history of legal trouble, and now his most recent probation violation has only made things worse. His decision to leave Florida without permission, despite already being given multiple chances, made the judge question if he even respects the law. During the hearing, the judge made it clear that she had been lenient with him before. She had granted him special permission to attend the 2024 Paris Olympics to support Team USA Boxing, but he still decided to break the rules and travel without approval. His probation agents weren't happy either. One of them admitted that it was difficult to even get in touch with him, forcing them to go through his team just to reach him. The state wanted him to serve jail time, with one of the attorneys recommending a $25,000 fine on top of it. But the judge, despite everything, decided against sending him back to jail. Instead, she extended his probation for another 18 months and fined him $10,000 fine. But that wasn't even the real punishment. The real problem now is what this lawsuit could do to his career. The situation is already bad, but what's making it worse is that Tank no longer has his most trusted advisor by his side. Calvin Ford, the veteran trainer who helped guide Tank to superstardom, is no longer part of his team, and now he's speaking out about what's going wrong. Ford has seen it all. He was there when Tank faced legal troubles before, but still managed to stay focused on his career. And in his opinion, the difference back then was Floyd Mayweather. Tank is a fighter. That's what he does best. He should stick to that, Ford said when asked about the current situation. Boxing politics is different. It takes experience. That's how Floyd helped Tank become great even in the middle of legal trouble back then.
He's like, when I ain't had no pops, Calvin was the person that you feel me, stepped in them shoes. So no matter if he's not my coach, anything like that, he's always gonna be in my life.
Ford's comments weren't just advice, they were a reminder. He was pointing out that when Tank was under Mayweather's guidance, he was still able to navigate his legal issues without it affecting his career. Floyd had been through his own problems outside the ring, but he knew how to balance everything and still dominate the sport. He had the experience, the connections, and the knowledge to handle boxing's toughest business and legal challenges.
Another thing I want to touch on is the Floyd situation. Floyd is Floyd. That's like I say, Tank is Tank, man. But at the end of the day, you know, the man is chasing greatness. And you should be supporting that. I always tell you that. You should be supporting that, you know. It's a rocky road that we seeing what's going on. Just pay attention.
Now, Tank is trying to do things his own way. And Ford believes that's the biggest mistake. The legal system doesn't care how many knockouts he has. The courts don't care how many belts he holds. If he doesn't have the right people guiding him, his career could fall apart before he even gets to fight again. And according to Ford, maybe Tank deserves it for doing away with the team that brought him to greatness.
You know, Calvin, he been with me since I was 7. I used to sleep in Coach Calvin's house. I used to sleep at his job when he was working at a seafood restaurant in Baltimore.
The problem Tank is facing isn't just about this one lawsuit, it's about his reputation in boxing. If the court finds evidence that the Roach fight was manipulated in any way, it won't just lead to a suspension, it could make him an outcast in the sport. Boxing has always had controversies, but once a fighter gets labeled as part of corruption, it's hard to come back from it. Sponsors back out, networks hesitate to air their fights, and sanctioning bodies might even strip them of their belts. For Tank, who has built his career on being a knockout artist and an exciting fighter, this would be a disaster.
Asked if Coach Calvin was in his corner, he said, we'll see.
Right, because it's nobody's business, but, you know, he didn't mean anything by that, you know?
Facts, there you go.
They forever family.
The Roach fight was already one of his worst performances, and now with this lawsuit, people are looking at it even more closely. Did Tank really struggle that night, or was there something else going on? Was the fight actually close, or was the decision already set before the opening bell? These are the questions boxing fans, analysts, and even other fighters are now asking. And with Calvin Ford no longer in his corner, Tank doesn't have that steady voice of experience reminding him to stay focused.
Tank was the first one in the gym, the last one out the gym. Tank used to sit on the ring like this and watch me train him.
How old is he at this point?
He was like 7, 8.
Okay.
A lot of stuff that I was giving my son was giving it to Tank. So it was a perfect fit. Tank was like the family.
If Tank doesn't get ahead of this situation, it could get even worse. The court ruling on this lawsuit will determine everything. If he's found guilty of any wrongdoing, his 28-month suspension could turn into something even longer. Ford's message was clear. Tank needs to get back to being a fighter. He needs to stop trying to control the business side of boxing without the right people behind him. He needs to stay out of trouble, avoid any further legal issues, and most importantly, he needs to prove that he still belongs at the top of the sport. Because right now, boxing is moving on without him. For years, Calvin Ford and Gervonta Davis were inseparable. Their bond wasn't just about boxing, it was personal. Ford had been there since the beginning, shaping Davis into the star he is today. Fans never expected to see Tank in a major fight without him. But then, March 1st happened, and for the first time, Davis stepped into the ring without Ford and had his first ever non-victory fight. A majority draw against Roach. Some say it was a robbery. Others say it was karma for breaking up a winning team. It's still unclear exactly what led to this split. Ford himself downplayed it, saying he just took a step back, but his words in an interview told a different story.
Knockout.
Man, I'm not. Honestly, I thought I should have won without that being counted a knockdown. Look, I ain't the ref. I ain't really, you know what I'm saying? Like, if he had to wipe sweat out his eye, he had to wipe sweat out his eye. But the rules do state, if you voluntarily take a knee, then that's an automatic 8 count.
No, he came to see me dead, slow down and worrying about you because boom, he knows that I spend time with my amateurs, Ford said. You know me. Both of y'all know me very well. I spend time with my amateurs all the time. That's my piece. On the surface, it sounds like Ford just wanted time for his younger fighters, but that explanation doesn't sit right with many. Ford had always juggled his work with amateurs and still made time for Tank. So why would he suddenly step back from his biggest fighter right before one of the most controversial fights of Tank's career?
Calvin is Calvin, you know what I mean? I got Calvin tatted on me. Calvin ain't going nowhere. Y'all don't even know Calvin for CCO. I know Calvin, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Some insiders believe Ford wasn't happy with how Tank was handling his career. The lawsuit over the Roach fight, the legal troubles, the constant chaos surrounding his name. Ford had seen this all before. with other fighters who had talent but let distractions ruin their potential. Maybe he didn't want to be part of another downfall. And let's not forget, Ford was always a loyal soldier under Mayweather Promotions. He saw firsthand how Floyd guided Tank through the business side of boxing. But once Tank left Mayweather and decided to take control of his own career, things changed. The fights became harder to secure, the legal problems piled up, and now he's on the verge of being banned from boxing for 28 months. Would this have happened if he still had Ford in his corner? That's the big question.
Hey Tank, real talk. Will Calvin be with you on this fight? Come on, you Tank. Huh? Will Calvin be with you on this fight?
I don't know. I see.
With Ford stepping back, Barry Hunter was the man who replaced him on Fight Night. But fans weren't impressed. Hunter is a respected coach, no doubt about that. He's trained top fighters like the Peterson brothers and had years of experience at the highest level. But he wasn't Calvin Ford. He didn't have that deep, father-like connection with Tank. And when Tank found himself struggling against Roach, it showed. Ford would have known exactly what to say. He would have known how to light a fire under Tank, how to push him to break through those tough moments. Instead, Tank looked flat, uninspired, and out of rhythm. He wasn't the same knockout artist fans were used to seeing. Some say Hunter just wasn't the right fit. Others say Tank didn't listen to anyone that night.
It's gonna be great for me. I got 2 head coaches in the corner, so it's gonna be fire to me. I'm probably the only one that can do that or ever done it in the sport. Like bring 2 head coaches together. You know what I mean? So it worked out in my favor, man. You know what I mean? I'm still.
Now, the big question is whether this split is permanent. Ford hasn't come out and directly said it's over, but the signs are there. He's focused on his younger fighters. He's not rushing to get back into Tank's camp. And more importantly, he didn't seem bothered by the fact that he wasn't in Tank's corner for the Roach fight. If Ford really saw himself working with Tank long term, wouldn't he be pushing to get things back on track? Wouldn't he be speaking out about how Tank needs to focus? Instead, he sounds like a man who has moved on. And if that's true, then Tank is on his own.
Wrestling fight, you know what I'm saying? Because Roach always, he come to fight. And I think it's a great fight. Everybody talking all that stuff about, why Roach? Because he signed and took the fight, you know what I'm saying? And it's good for...
This wouldn't be the first time a star fighter has split from their longtime coach. Manny Pacquiao and Freddie Roach had their ups and downs. Canelo and Eddie Reynoso had moments of tension. Even Tyson Fury switched trainers before his biggest fights. But what makes this different is that Tank isn't just dealing with a coaching change. He's dealing with career-threatening legal trouble. This is the worst possible time for him to be without the one coach who truly knows him inside and out.
So everything is good with Calvin because it's the first time he's not the head trainer in a while.
Yeah, for sure. Calvin, again, I said Calvin is pops. You know what I mean? He will always be around. You know what I mean? So,
right now, Tank's future is up in the air. If the court rules against him in the Roach lawsuit, his boxing career is on hold for 28 months. That's 2 years and 4 months of no fights, no paychecks, and no progress. Gervonta Davis is standing at a major crossroads in his career. The undefeated aura that once surrounded him has cracked. After the controversial draw against Lamont Roach, Davis is no longer seen as untouchable. His reputation has taken a serious hit, and for the first time in his career, his next move isn't just about choosing the biggest fight, it's about survival. If he doesn't make the right decision now, he could find himself completely out of the boxing conversation.
Boy, what does he mean to you when you hear that name? What does he mean when you first hear that?
a father. Father. And then he's one of the guys that held a lot of this, like, this whole family together.
For years, Davis had positioned himself as one of the most exciting fighters in the world. His devastating knockouts, his ability to put fans in seats, and his brash confidence made him a must-watch attraction. But that was before the Roach fight. That was before his relationship with Calvin Ford collapsed. That was before the lawsuit. Now every move Tank makes is under a microscope. Right now, the biggest name floating around is Vasily Lomachenko. The Ukrainian legend hasn't been active, but when he does return, he can walk straight into a major fight. And according to his manager, Aegis Klimas, Tank is the ideal opponent.
Also, something we gotta work on in the corner, for sure.
What is a Shakur and what is a Tank? Skill and financial, Klimas said. Tank comes to fight. It's a more interesting fight. It's a more intriguing fight. Right now, Lomachenko is the best opponent to fight Tank. Those words should be music to Tank's ears. Loma's team is basically calling him out, saying they'd rather fight him than Shakur Stevenson. But here's where things get tricky. Does Tank even want that fight? Some say this is the perfect way for Davis to redeem himself. A win over Lomachenko would silence critics, re-establish his dominance at lightweight, and put him back in the conversation as the most exciting fighter in the division. But others aren't so sure. A loss to Loma would be devastating.
Man, he got lucky at the draw. He did a good fight though. I thought he won it, but man, you gotta just create more action. That's a sparring session as far as I'm concerned. But god damn, that's not the Gervonta I know.
Lomachenko isn't an easy fight for anyone, even at 36 years old. He's got the movement, the experience, and the kind of ring IQ that could give Tank serious problems. And after seeing how Davis struggled against Roach, there are real questions about whether he's ready for a fighter of Loma's caliber right now. There's also another factor, the court ruling. If the lawsuit from Roach's team goes against him, Tank could be out of boxing for over 2 years. Would Lomachenko even wait that long? Unlikely.
Or you call Loma on social media. So
that's easy to do, right? Social media, I can call out Mike Tyson.
Question would be asking a pregnant woman who just gave a birth, would you like to have another child?
Yeah, right.
So if Loma isn't an option, who's next? Does Tank finally fight Shakur Stevenson? The Shakur Stevenson fight has been rumored for years, but it's never been close to happening. And now, after Tank's draw with Roach, Stevenson's team might feel like Tank isn't even worth the risk anymore. For years, Shakur has been calling Tank out. He said he'd beat him easily, that he's too skilled for Davis, and that the Baltimore puncher wouldn't be able to handle his defense. Tank, on the other hand, has dismissed Stevenson as boring, saying he's not a real draw. But now, with his reputation in question, would Tank finally take that fight? Some believe he has no choice.
He's a 36-year-old man, the extensive 300-plus amateur fights, 2 Olympic Games, Pan American Games. Y'all don't know how much it takes to do that. And the difference between having one great night winning the world championship title and having a great run, winning 2 gold medals, means you did 4 or 5 fights in 2 weeks span, week and a half span.
A fight against Shakur would be massive. It would sell. It would bring back the buzz that Tank had before the Roach controversy. But stylistically, it's not a good fight for him. Stevenson's defense is elite. He makes opponents miss, frustrates them, and wins rounds without taking damage. If Tank had problems catching Roach clean, how is he supposed to deal with Stevenson? Even worse, what if he loses? That would be career-destroying. Stevenson isn't a power puncher, but if he completely outclasses Tank for 12 rounds, it could be even worse than a knockout loss. Fans would start questioning whether Davis was ever as good as they thought.
Who have Shakur? What have Shakur done? What have he done in the sport? He haven't done nothing. The young one is looking more better than him.
Who that?
The Keyshawn looking way more better than this. I keep screaming his name. He haven't done nothing.
The reality is, Tank is in a tough spot. He needs a win, but not just any win. He needs a fight that gets people talking again. If Stevenson is too risky, maybe Devin Haney is the right fight. Haney and Tank have gone back and forth for years, and after Haney's loss to Ryan Garcia, now might be the perfect time to make that fight. Haney's stock has dropped, just like Tank's. They both need a big win to remind the world they're still at the top of the sport. But here's the issue. Haney still holds a world title at 140 pounds. Would Tank move up to fight him, or would Haney have to drop back down to lightweight? Neither option seems ideal.
He was that age. I think he was like 17. I wasn't that much older than him. I think we probably like 3 years older, apart, but I feel as though he slowed down. All that partying and drinking and stuff slowed him down.
And then there's the Ryan Garcia rematch. Despite the no contest ruling in Garcia's win over Haney, Ryan's name is still hot. He's still a big draw, and a rematch with Tank would sell, no question about it. The first fight ended with Tank stopping Garcia with a body shot, but since then, Ryan has looked stronger and more confident. And let's be honest, Garcia loves drama. If he senses that Tank is vulnerable, he'll be the first one calling him out. Some believe that Tank's best move is to forget about belts, forget about rankings, and just go for the biggest money fight available. A Garcia rematch would make more money than a Lomachenko or Stevenson fight.
Gervonta, what was the conversation about with your #1 fan out there?
Oh, Ryan? He's crazy. He's crazy. Talk about rematch. He said I was the best at 135 to 42.
But here's the problem. Tank might not even be in a position to choose his next opponent. If the lawsuit doesn't go his way, he's out of the ring until 2027. And even if he wins in court, the damage is already done. The perception of him has changed. For years, he was the most feared fighter in the division, a knockout artist who could end a fight at any moment. But after what happened against Roach, that aura is fading. And let's not forget, he doesn't have Calvin Ford in his corner anymore. Some say this whole mess started when Tank decided to move on from Ford. Maybe it was just a one-fight break. Maybe they'll reunite. But right now, it looks like Tank is running out of allies. The boxing world moves fast. 1 minute, you're the most feared fighter in the division. The next, you're an afterthought. If Tank doesn't make the right move soon, he could find himself on the outside looking in. And let's be real, he wouldn't be the first star to fall. But how do you see it? Share your thoughts below and subscribe for more.